Menace. That's what they called me back in high school. Wait. Anyway, today I have the privilege of taking a look at the pre-release version of Menace Remastered, which, as of this video, is set to release December 18th, 2025. Now, Menace is kind of a special game for me because it's one of my earliest experiences with PC gaming, next to Commander Keen 4. I actually don't remember playing it specifically, but I have a very vivid memory of young me just kind of watching someone else play it and thinking, wow, this is like Commander Keen 4, but different. Now, I don't recall the first time I personally actually played it, but it was among one of the few handful of shareware games that I had access to when I was a kid. So I thus played the crap out of it like you did back then. So obviously when I heard Menace was going to get a remake, I was hype, and what we have here is way more than a remake and is way better than I ever anticipated it would be. So let's take a look at it. Lately, it's been nice to see more classic PC games get the modern remake treatment, like the HD versions of Monster Bash, Crystal Caves, and Secret Agent. As with those games, Menace Remastered is more than just a graphical overhaul. It objectively just makes the game better in every way. There's also an entirely new, lovingly crafted fourth episode, which is spectacular, but we'll talk about that a bit later. First, I'd like to interject that I originally designed this video to be a pre-release sneak peek. Unfortunately, the developers at Rigel Gameworks didn't want any media coverage on the game until release day, which as of this video is right now. The game is now available on Steam or GOG for purchase. The only reason I bring this up is as a disclaimer because all the footage I have in this video is still pre-release. The good news is everything I'm showing here shouldn't differ much at all from the full release, unless I specify otherwise. With that minor detail out of the way, let's talk about the most noticeable improvement in this remaster, which is the graphics. The most striking difference to me is the mulleted main character of the game, Snake Logan, has started wearing sunscreen and has improved his skincare routine. In all seriousness, moving past the limitations of EGA and colorizing the graphics the way they have done really makes it look beautiful. The game has always had weird graphics, with almost cartoonish characters exploding into chunks of gore, and all of that is still preserved, it just looks all crispy and fresh now. With this being a modern release, it's obviously a widescreen game now, and this really benefits gameplay in many ways as well by giving you a better field of view. However, it can also be played in 4:3, which, believe it or not, fewer games are starting to support. This means with the proper adapters, you can play it on era-appropriate CRT monitors, which just kind of feels right. You're also given the option to customize the graphics in any way you want. You can run it in widescreen with original EGA graphics, or you can turn off any of the modern effects like motion smoothing or parallax scrolling. By pressing F3, you can also switch between enhanced and original EGA graphics modes in real time, which is cool for comparisons. Personally, I see no reason to play it the old way aside for some nostalgic reasons, as all the enhanced mode settings make the game look and play way better even if you choose to play in 4:3. The enhanced frame rate and motion smoothing especially just feels so nice compared to the frame rate you're locked to in the original DOS version. I'm surprised there are no CRT filters to play with, but I kinda hate those anyway most of the time, so I'm not personally disappointed. What I am unreasonably happy about is the fact that they decided to keep this iconic menu design. They didn't have to do it, but something about this menu just makes you know it's still Menace. Or Commander Keen if you were to make it green. Speaking of that, the original, very Keen-esque soundtrack composed by Bobby Prince remains fully intact. And you also get the choice of PC speaker and 2 variations of ad-lib farts for sound effects. The music playback is done via emulation with the nuked OPL3 emulator that DOSBox Staging uses by default, which offers nearly perfect reproduction of the music. In addition to these original songs, the 4th episode contains a brand new set of OPL tunes. In my opinion, most of these arguably fit the tone of the game way better and lean into more of a Duke Nukem 2 style rather than the droning, jazzy sounds Bobby came up with. So enough about the graphics and music, let's look at the gameplay improvements. Now, when it comes to changing classic games, many people argue that they should remain in their original form. In some cases, I would agree, but here I found they just optimized the game and altered stuff that made the old game annoying to play. The only negative change to speak of is Commander Keen's dialogue was altered in his Episode 2 cameo, but I'm sure their hand was forced there due to legal reasons. That is just being nitpicky though. As a whole, the changes are all good. Removing limited lives and using an autosave system, for instance, just makes it a less frustrating experience overall. Considering the game always used a save system, it never really added much difficulty anyway, aside from the deep emotional turmoil one feels when they get a game over and the last save was 2 levels ago. They've also made significant tweaks to the difficulty levels. They haven't done so to make the game easier, but rather make it more fair, especially in later episodes where enemy placement was borderline masochistic. All in all, hard is still hard, normal is normal, and easy lives up to its name. There is just far less "what were they thinking?" moments. Another thing added is a new score multiplier, which increases your score if you dispatch enemies quickly. This pairs well with the online leaderboard feature, which allows you to compete with your friends or the world for the highest score. Yours truly is currently on the leaderboard, but I think there's only like 10 people playing, so. Anywho, the best change, at least in my opinion, comes in the way grenade and weapon power-ups work. In the old version, if you picked up a power-up, it would replace whatever you were currently using. Duke Nukem 2 did this as well, and it affects how you play the game in a negative way, because you often avoid shooting things or picking things up because you didn't want to overwrite your current power-up. This remaster fixes this issue by allowing you to cycle between different weapon or grenade types, and it allows you to store and preserve your ammo between levels. This is all explained in a new tutorial mission, which I initially found strange for such a simple game, but it works well for showing off the aforementioned new ammo system and new peeking feature. Yes, by either using the page up and down keys on the keyboard or the right stick on the gamepad, you can look before you leap. On that note, gamepad control is pretty sweet, and button overlays are even shown, so playing this on a TV or Steam Deck will feel just like a console platformer. What about that juicy new content though? One of the major selling points for this collection is the 4th episode, and I'm really floored how great of an addition this is. While playing through the old episodes of Menace was good fun, I can't help but feel the first 3 episodes kind of run together a bit. In reality, it feels like a single game rather than 3 games, and I've never thought it had a clear identity between episodes like Commander Keen did, for instance. By contrast, the 4th episode definitely feels like an all-new adventure, and a fitting final hurrah for Snake Logan. Not only does the soundtrack give it a new vibe, like I mentioned earlier, but the 15 new levels are free of the technical limitations of the old engine. This means bigger, more complex, sprawling levels with new assets, elements such as elevators, and gravity modifiers that affect the player and the momentum of grenades. The boss fights are also surprisingly cool and far more interesting than anything in the base game. I don't want to spoil too much for those who want to play it, but I will say if you're on the fence about even purchasing this remastered edition, the 4th episode alone makes it worth it in my opinion. While I powered through it in a little over 2 hours, there's a lot of replayability in terms of secrets and silly little cameos, just like the first 3 games. You also have the addition of achievements and speedrunner modes for all the episodes, and hopefully in the future, you will never run out of new Biomenace levels because we have a level editor. Yes, the inclusion of a level editor will ensure that we will probably have more content than anyone will ever finish once the community gets involved. It's a little bit unclear at the moment of if they're going to use Steam Workshop. I don't think they are, since there's a GOG release as well. I'm assuming once the game goes public, they'll probably add a menu option to browse community levels. So as you can see here, I'm showing some footage of the level editor, but take what you see here with a grain of salt, since they have informed me that the final version will be polished quite a bit more in terms of user friendliness. Even with that in mind, this rough version is perfectly usable for creating your own masterpieces or disasters with all the sprites and assets from the main game. I'm sure the community will come up with some great stuff, and I can't wait to check back here on launch day. Well, that is my look at Biomenace Remastered. If Steve Maraff was involved, I would give it 10 Maraff heads out of 10. He wasn't involved, but the folks at Rigel Gameworks that were have really knocked this out of the park. Clearly, there was a ton of work and love poured into this project for a game that caters to a somewhat niche audience. We're talking about thousands of sales rather than millions. But if you're a longtime fan of Biomenace or want to make up for lost time, this is 100% the best way to play it. And I hope it sells well for them because I'd like to see more DOS games get this treatment. And heck, I'd like to see more Snake Logan. I've always thought he would fit in with like a build engine type FPS with a 1980s retro futurism thing going on. I mean, mullets are cool again. Thus, Snake Logan is cool again, right? Anyway, I'll leave the video off here. Thank you to my members and patrons on screen now, and a shout out to Bart, or DOS Gamer T here on YouTube, who was able to hook me up with a pre-release key. I really appreciate that. I will also add the Steam and GOG links below so you can wishlist, buy, or check out the free demo that is available. But with that, I will see you guys in the next one.